live with the Cat Kanavos Show here on New York Television.
Welcome to the Cat Kanavos Show, everyone, on New Earth TV. And I'm your host, Cat Kanavos, author of the Amazon #1 bestseller in new releases, Dreams That Can Save Your Life, written with Dr. Larry Burke. Thanks to all of you, the book shot straight to the top of the Amazon #1 spot within 12 hours. So you can learn more about Dreams That Can Save Your Life on our Facebook link. All the same as the title, Dreams That Can Save Your Life. So our guest today is just absolutely amazing. She talks about truth to triumph, and she has a book out by that title, and it's all about a spiritual guide to finding your own truth. But she has an amazing story and an amazing journey from the time she was little and abused, how she overcame that by actually joining a circus. So I don't want to give a whole lot away about this, because as I was reading her story, I was just amazed. So without further ado, I'd like for you all to welcome Lily Sanders to the show. Welcome, Lily.
Hi, it's great to be here.
So Lily, you're actually right now, you have this extraordinary success, and you're actually named one of the top 15 coaches and experts in New York City. You were a soap opera regular and a TV movie dancer and actress. You own a number of franchises. You're a devoted mother. In with all of this, you're also a devoted mother, but you were also you spent a whole year as a featured Barnum and Bailey circus show designer. And the reason that floored me is my grandparents were trapeze artists with the Barnum and Bailey show. So give us a little idea of how you went from where you were to where you are now.
Okay, so that's 10 decades worth. Well, okay, so I'll rewind. So after my upbringing, I did still have my dreams and my aspirations and my visions, which most were already realized by the time I was 23. That being on stage as a dancer, a dance contestant on Star Search with Ed McMahon, and that was my first claim to fame, so to speak. And then I was just kind of on a roll of auditioning, and the next role that I auditioned for, the next audition that I had gotten, that role was for a showgirl dancer with Barnum Bailey, Ringling Brothers, Barnum Bailey Circus. That was for a year. And then I came back to New York, and I really dove into very, very serious acting studies, and learned different methodologies and techniques, and was off Broadway working and, doing films and whatnot. And that was when I had gotten also my day play role on One Life to Live. And then I had, it's safe to say that for 17 years after I left home, after I was from 15, should I say, and then it was a good 17 years that I was just really living the dream. I was on this path, on this road to what I felt was my purpose at the time. And then that was when I took this 180 pivot. And that's what I'd love the listeners to and the viewers to understand, that, it's not always this cycle where you go from one path and then you just kind of turn into, and you just keep rolling into that same, it just doesn't keep snowballing. It doesn't really necessarily go in everyone's life. With me, I had 17 years of, doing everything that I love to do, and traveling and performing and dancing and acting. But then 17 years later, I took this turn, which I call in my book, Truth to Triumph, I call it the path left of center. And okay, sometimes we have to take a different path, and whether it's right or left or forward, and whatever path we choose to take, it really is really, really meant to take you to exactly where you need to be in order to learn whatever lessons you need to learn or whatever growth that you need to, to accomplish to get to where you are today. And so all of those years, fast forward, that path left of center really put me into 14 years of, this is really important for people to understand as well. I was a highly successful franchise owner, 3 franchises, raising my child. I was a single divorced mom. And then when I had remarried, I was doing this all behind a veil of silence. And so in short, I was a battered wife. And who knew? No one knew. I was really good at pretending. And by the way, that is not the Oscar that I was dreaming of. So I still got to go for the real Oscar, I suppose, because that was not the Oscar I was dreaming of. But that was the nightmare that I woke up out of. And I always say, even when I speak today, if I speak or do workshops or just coach someone, I just always say, look, it is time, let's just wake up, out of this, this sleepy world that we're in. And it starts with us individually and then collectively, as a family, as a global family.
So let's go back a little ways and talk about how, as you were a child, your whole life was kind of like a sad country song, but it has a great ending. So when you were very young and you were living at home, you were living with a depressed, frightened mother, 3 siblings, an abusive father. Tell us a little bit how that came about, what was going on in the home, and did that carry over into your marriages?
Okay, so I have no happy memories growing up, and that's not a secret. I've said that to my siblings. I've said that, I just have had no happy memories growing up, nor of any of us. We were all raised in the same household with the same father. And so my father was extremely violent. And in my book, Truth to Triumph, I touch upon that, and the stories are pretty raw, but they're also watered down. Meaning, it was even worse than what you read when you read Truth to Triumph. But I do encourage people to pick up a copy and read it so that you can you could resonate with other people that may be in your life situation today that are leading an unconscious lifestyle. It doesn't have to be violence. It could be anything mental or emotional or financial abuse. Doesn't even have to be abuse. It could be someone with addictions and OCD, whatever. But the point is that when I was living in that life, the big key thing for me was I was really that little girl that I was always dreaming of the Cinderella dream. And I didn't really get it because it carried over, and not right away, like I mentioned earlier, Kat, it carried over 20 years later, when I wound up, in this marriage that was someone very similar to my father in many ways, maybe not as violent, but very, very mentally and emotionally abusive. And then if it wasn't that building that, that fell on my head, I turned around and I didn't really date after my divorce, and I went right into another marriage, which was equally as bad in its own ways, with someone who was extremely violent. And then finally I said, okay, stupid, I said to myself, I said, you have to wake up now. This is time now to take your power back and love yourself and know that you are just worthy. And that's pretty much why I wrote Truth to Triumph, so that anyone that's living in in the darkness can find their light. Because truly, the light is found in the valley, not on top of the mountain peaks. When you're down and out, that's when you need to look for the light. The light is there, I promise everyone. And that's your freedom back to life, is, you know, when you're in that dark place, and no one really no one needs to be in that dark place. And if you're in that dark place, then I am here to inspire and encourage people to see the light and make a choice to really, like, choose an experience, choose this creation that they'd like to experience in their life, that is loving and
So
good.
we all kind of, sounds to me like what happened was we all get comfortable in our box. Even if our box is uncomfortable, we find a way to get comfortable in that. And since you were raised almost like in that abusive relationship, you kind of sought that comfort when you grew up and got into your relationship. So you had to kind of move outside that box. And you did that by joining a circus.
Actually, no. The circus was part of my happy life. The circus was actually, because I had already, my dad left home, I was 15. And so I had actually, this is important to mention, I had my first love, the love of my life, and it was a completely normal, loving relationship. And then he broke my heart. And so when that happened, it was kind of a good thing, because it really reminded me of what my dream was, and that was always to be a professional dancer and an actress. So I wound up diving back into that and really focusing on myself. And what's interesting, it's funny that you talk about a box. What I discovered down the road, again, 17, almost 20 years later, when I was in this domestically violent marriage of my own, was not that it was comforting or even something that I was used to, but it was because I'd been away from it for so long. But it was more that the mind conditioning growing up was that I was not worthy. The mind conditioning growing up was that I needed to be validated for everything that I did. And so instead of being taught to love myself first, it was always about, you know, kind of tiptoeing around and always, you know, needing to be validated or needing to be told that this, what I'm doing is right or wrong. And that's really, that's not a good place to be raised in. And it's, I love to tell parents today, it's not a good thing to raise your children that way either. You know, we need to throw away the old paradigm. And when our children do good in school or in sports or something after school or something that maybe they made or created, you know, the old paradigm was, you know, oh, mommy's so proud of you or daddy's so proud of you. But I say we need to start telling our children today, you must be so proud of yourself. Because we need to start making that switch in children's minds and their hearts today. And we need to connect the mind and the heart together and fuse it. And has to really begin with self-love. That's big.
So, Truth to Triumph, a spiritual guide to finding your truth, is the story of how Lily found her truth, how she forged a new relationship with her higher self and the divine to be a beacon of light and love for those to follow. So, Lily, how can our audience find your book?
Okay, so I usually suggest to everyone, since this is going international, go on Amazon.com. It's available internationally in a lot of stores, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, but I usually send people to Amazon.com. Also,
can you hold it up for us? Can you hold the book up?
Yes, I can hold it up. Here we go. So, here we go.
Great. I love the cover.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we can also go on my website, lilysanders.live, and you can also order it through my website. And I have the Amazon link on my website as well, or you could just order it directly from the publisher. So it's LILYSANDERS.LIVE, lilysanders.live.
Thank you so much, Lily.
You're
And
welcome.
I want to thank everybody who tuned into the show today. You have been listening and watching the Cat Cannabis Show. And join us next Tuesday for more great stories. These shows are all archived on the Cat Cannabis Show on Facebook. And you can also go to New Earth TV to watch any other shows with any of the other hosts. So until next time, have a great week. And remember, tell yourself that you're proud of you too. Thanks, everyone. Good night.